Captain Alex Ryder's shuttle shuddered as it pierced through the upper atmosphere of a strange, violet-hued planet. He gripped the controls tightly, his green eyes scanning the readouts. The mission had been briefed only hours ago, but the weight of responsibility pressed down like gravity itself. Reports of a captured alien princess from the Varelian Empire had reached the United Earth Council, and Alex had been chosen for one reason. He was human, clever, and fearless in situations that demanded instinct over protocol. The planet's surface unfolded beneath him, a landscape of jagged crystal cliffs and glowing rivers that pulsed with light as if alive. He had landed several kilometers from the fortress where the princess was held. According to intelligence, the enemy faction, a species called the Krith, had seized the Varelian royal heir in their war for dominance. They underestimated humans, assuming no one from Earth would venture this far. That was exactly why Alex was here. He exited the shuttle, his boots sinking slightly into the soft, shimmering soil. The air smelled faintly metallic, and he adjusted the filtration mask. Every detail counted. Moving quietly, he activated his cloak device, which bent light around him, rendering him nearly invisible. He moved toward the fortress, analyzing guard positions, energy pulses, and the structure's weak points. Every step he took reflected the sharp human logic that had carried humanity into space centuries before. As he approached, he noticed the Krith guards. Their four-legged forms were large and intimidating, covered in reflective scales that shimmered under the planet's twin suns. Alex paused behind a jagged crystal, calculating timing. A slight flick of his hand sent a micro-dart from his wrist launcher into the ground near one of the guards. The dart emitted a low-frequency pulse, temporarily confusing the creature's sensors. He slipped past, silent as a shadow. Inside the fortress, the halls were vast and alien. Walls pulsed with energy veins, lighting the space with a soft, eerie glow. He moved carefully, avoiding detection, and finally reached a heavily guarded chamber. Through the energy shields, he saw her, Lysera, the Varelian princess. Her skin was pale blue, and her eyes, deep silver, glimmered with intelligence and strength. She was seated calmly, not panicked, observing her captors with a gaze that seemed to measure everything. Alex's plan required precision. He activated the disruptor in his hand, sending a pulse that temporarily disabled the shields. With careful steps, he approached, avoiding patrols and surveillance drones. Lysera's eyes met his. For a moment, there was silence. Then she tilted her head, almost acknowledging him. Not in fear, but in recognition of the effort and skill that brought him there. He signaled with a hand motion, and she rose, moving gracefully. She followed him silently as he guided her toward an escape route. The corridors were tense, filled with the low hum of alien machinery. Alex's mind ran through scenarios. What if they were discovered? What if the Krith had more traps? Humans often relied on brute force, but Alex had learned that observation and patience often won more battles than weapons alone. They reached a hall where the Krith had stationed their main defense. Alex whispered, "Stay close. Don't make a sound." Using a small spherical device, he released a blinding light and sound pulse that disoriented the guards. Lysera moved swiftly, showing agility and quick thinking. Alex noticed that she was not just a passive victim. She adapted, helped, and calculated every move. She was no ordinary princess. They finally emerged into the open, the shuttle just visible in the distance. But as they ran across the glowing fields, alarms blared. The Krith had discovered them. Alex grabbed Lysera's hand and sprinted faster than he thought possible. Energy blasts streaked past, melting crystal formations and leaving sparks in the air. Human reflexes combined with careful observation allowed them to dodge and weave. Once aboard the shuttle, Alex sealed the hatch. Lysera turned to him, her silver eyes assessing him, almost smiling. "You are unusual," she said in perfect common, the universal language of the galaxy. Alex chuckled lightly, wiping sweat from his forehead. "I've been told that before." But then, something strange happened. Lysera moved closer, raising her hand toward a console in the shuttle. A strange glow enveloped Alex. He felt a sudden pull in his mind, a sensation like his thoughts were being gently guided, reshaped, and connected to hers. He froze, alarmed but also fascinated. Lysera's tone remained calm. "Do not be afraid. This is my way of ensuring your loyalty. It is temporary, though essential." Alex's mind raced. Enslaved? That was a strong word. Yet as he looked into her eyes, he realized this was not an act of cruelty. It was a calculated measure, a protocol of her species. Humans often acted on instinct, but in her world, trust required structure. It was alien, yes, but there was purpose. The shuttle's engines roared as Alex regained control, piloting them through the planet's orbit. Lysera explained that in Varelian society, bonds like this were a protective measure. Leaders often ensured that anyone who aided them could be trusted absolutely. Humans were seen as unpredictable, and this bond was her way of confirming that Alex's courage and judgment were genuine. Alex took a deep breath. His mind still felt the subtle pull of her influence, but he chose to cooperate, knowing it would be temporary, and that understanding this culture could save countless lives. He realized that human adaptability was one of their greatest strengths. Even under alien control, humans could assess, learn, and act independently when necessary. As they traveled through the stars, Lysera briefed him on her kingdom. Varelia was a civilization of advanced technology, strategy, and culture, currently under threat from multiple factions. The Krith had captured her to destabilize the Empire. She explained that the galaxy was a place of shifting alliances, where humans were newcomers, often underestimated, but capable of remarkable ingenuity. Alex listened, absorbing every detail. His military experience gave him perspective, but her knowledge of political strategy opened new horizons. Days passed aboard the shuttle. They shared stories, strategies, and observations. Lysera's calm demeanor contrasted with Alex's practical urgency. She had a way of seeing the bigger picture, noticing subtle patterns while he focused on immediate problems. Together they began to form a working partnership, though the word partnership felt strange under the current circumstances. One evening, as the twin suns of a distant system set, casting orange and purple light across the shuttle's observation deck, Alex realized that humans were capable of thriving in alien environments. Not just surviving, but contributing. Their curiosity, adaptability, and empathy allowed them to build bridges where others relied on fear or power. Lysera, for all her calculated measures, had recognized these qualities in him. Suddenly, the shuttle's sensors picked up multiple energy signatures approaching rapidly. Alex tensed. "We have company," he said. Lysera's eyes narrowed. "The Krith have tracked us. We must be careful." Alex's mind raced. He prepared defensive maneuvers while simultaneously analyzing escape routes. Lysera offered guidance, pointing out weak points in the incoming ship's formations. His human intuition complemented her strategic genius. Together they were ready, a team formed not by trust alone but by necessity, skill, and mutual respect. The enemy approached, their ship sleek, dark, and fast. Alex maneuvered the shuttle, dodging initial blasts while Lysera calculated intercepts and countermeasures. The battle was tense, a test of reflexes, strategy, and courage. Humans might be new to galactic warfare, but their unpredictability often gave them an edge. Alex's rapid decision-making and creativity turned potential traps into opportunities, saving both their lives multiple times. After a series of evasive maneuvers, the enemy ships gave up pursuit, retreating into the void. Alex exhaled heavily. That was too close. Lysera observed him quietly. "You are capable. I underestimated your adaptability." Alex smiled faintly, realizing that even under subtle control he was not powerless. Humans had a way of influencing outcomes simply by thinking differently. That night, Alex sat in the observation deck, staring at the stars. Lysera joined him silently. The silence was not awkward. It was shared understanding. He had rescued her, but she had placed a subtle bond upon him, not as punishment, but as a measure of protection and trust. In that moment, Alex began to understand that humanity's greatest power was not technology or weapons, but character, courage, ingenuity, and empathy. Lysera finally spoke, breaking the silence. "Humans are remarkable. I see why other species fear and respect you. Even in this bond, I sense your independence. You will not be controlled against your will, only guided until trust is absolute." Alex nodded, feeling a strange mix of relief and respect. He realized that the princess's actions were not about dominance, but understanding. She had saved her people's future by ensuring that those who helped her could be trusted. As the shuttle moved deeper into uncharted space, both knew that the journey ahead would be perilous. The Krith were only the beginning. Alliances had to be formed, enemies outmaneuvered, and strategy applied with precision. Alex understood that humans could thrive, even in a galaxy of species far more advanced than Earth. Their uniqueness lay not in technology alone, but in creativity, empathy, and courage, the qualities that allowed one human to save a princess, survive an alien world, and begin forming bonds. The morning light filtered through the crystal windows of the palace, casting delicate reflections on the polished floor. Princess Lyra walked with her usual measured grace, but there was a subtle energy about her that she could not ignore. Ever since the incident with the rogue drone, her thoughts had been unusually occupied with the human soldier, Captain Ethan. She had spent countless hours replaying his calm, decisive actions, and the ease with which he had faced danger. No one had ever moved through her world with such confidence, and it left her both intrigued and unsettled. Ethan, meanwhile, had spent the night reviewing reports and preparing for the day's diplomatic missions. He moved with quiet determination, careful not to intrude but always observant. Humans were not naturally formal, yet he understood the importance of respecting boundaries, especially with someone like Lyra. Despite this, he could sense her attention on him, in ways subtle but unmistakable. The day's first engagement was a tour of the city's central archives, where knowledge from across the galaxy was stored. The hall was enormous, with floating books, holographic displays, and interactive screens. Lyra led the way, explaining the history of the archives and the protocols for preserving the information. Ethan followed closely, not as an observer but as an active participant, asking questions about the technology and processes. "You study history as carefully as you manage your present," Ethan remarked, scanning a holographic display of planetary records. "It's impressive." Lyra glanced at him, a faint smile touching her lips. "Understanding the past ensures stability for the future. It is our responsibility." He nodded, but there was a human curiosity in his eyes, a desire to see beyond mere protocol. "Sometimes I wonder if the future needs more unpredictability," he said lightly. "It keeps people alert, alive." The comment made Lyra pause. She had always valued precision and planning above all else, yet hearing it from someone so genuine, so different, sparked a thought she had never considered. Was there value in unpredictability, in instincts that could not be entirely calculated? Their tour continued, and Lyra found herself explaining not only the formal aspects of the archives but also the small stories behind artifacts, something she rarely shared. Ethan listened intently, never interrupting, never rushing, yet his presence encouraged openness. By the end of the tour, she felt a subtle shift inside her, a recognition that this human soldier could make her reveal parts of herself she kept carefully hidden. The day progressed with meetings and discussions about interstellar trade agreements. The atmosphere was tense, with alien diplomats negotiating with precision, each phrase carefully weighed. Ethan stayed beside Lyra, offering insight only when necessary, often observing silently. His calm, rational perspective complemented Lyra's structured approach, and she realized that together they formed a balance she had not anticipated. Late in the afternoon, an urgent message arrived from the Palace Security Council. A group of political rivals, dissatisfied with the current negotiations, had attempted a sabotage. An energy surge had been detected near the planetary communications array. Without delay, Lyra and Ethan made their way to the location. The communication facility was a maze of corridors, glowing panels, and hums of active machinery. Lyra's knowledge of the layout was precise, but Ethan's instincts proved invaluable. He guided her through alternative paths, avoiding potential hazards and scanning for any threats that sensors might miss. His movements were confident yet flexible, a combination of trained skill and natural intuition. Suddenly, a surge of energy sparked from a compromised conduit, threatening to overload the system. Lyra's hand hovered near the emergency controls, but Ethan acted first, leaping forward to redirect the energy flow with a makeshift solution using tools nearby. Sparks flew and the air hummed with intensity. Lyra could only watch, her heart racing, not with fear but with admiration and something more subtle, something personal. Once the immediate danger was contained, Lyra assessed the situation. "You acted without hesitation," she said quietly, her voice carrying an emotion she rarely allowed to surface. Most would have waited for orders. Ethan gave a small shrug, wiping soot from his sleeve. "Sometimes waiting costs more than acting. I couldn't risk anyone getting hurt, including you." Lyra looked at him, feeling the warmth of gratitude and a deeper, unspoken connection. The calm she maintained for her world faltered in his presence, revealing a side of herself that was humanly vulnerable. She realized that bravery, authenticity, and instinct were qualities that transcended species, and that this human soldier embodied them fully. In the days that followed, Lyra and Ethan spent more time together, though always under the guise of diplomatic work. During strategy sessions, she found herself smiling at his remarks, appreciating his insights, and occasionally laughing softly at his subtle humor. It was a new experience for her, to find comfort and intrigue in the presence of someone so different. One evening, as the twin suns set, Lyra invited Ethan to the palace gardens. The floating water orbs glimmered in the fading light, and the crystalline flowers reflected shades of orange and purple. They walked side by side, the usual formality between them softened by shared moments of observation and reflection. "You seem more at ease here than in the halls of negotiation," Ethan remarked. Watching a soft glow ripple across the water, Lyra considered his words. "Perhaps. The gardens allow reflection. They remind me of simplicity amidst responsibility." He nodded, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. "Sometimes it takes someone from another world to remind you of that." Lyra felt a gentle warmth at his words, a recognition that her thoughts and feelings were seen and valued. She realized that her admiration for him had grown into something more profound, an appreciation not only for his courage but for his character, his humanity. The next day brought another challenge. A delegation from a neighboring system arrived, their intentions unclear. Tensions rose quickly as negotiations began. Aliens around them whispered, calculated, and postured. Lyra maintained her composure, but Ethan noticed the subtle signs of stress, the slight tightening of her jaw, the way her fingers brushed a crystal pendant unconsciously. During a tense moment, the delegation attempted a deceptive maneuver, trying to manipulate the data being shared. Ethan acted instinctively, uncovering the trick with clear, logical reasoning. His intervention prevented a potential diplomatic disaster. Lyra, usually calm under scrutiny, found herself acknowledging aloud, "Your perception is extraordinary. You see what others miss?" Ethan smiled faintly. "I just notice what's happening, Princess. I don't assume. I act when it matters." The simplicity of his words, the honesty behind them, struck her. She realized that in him she had found not just bravery, but integrity and clarity, qualities that complemented her own, and challenged her in ways that were both unsettling and exciting. As the day concluded, Lyra and Ethan walked through the quiet palace corridors. She had come to expect her calm demeanor to be tested by events, but what surprised her most was how often it faltered simply because of him. In his presence, she was both herself and something more. Curious, reflective, and unexpectedly flustered. Later, alone in her chambers, Lyra reflected on the events of the past days. She thought of Ethan, his actions, his words, and the way he moved through her world with confidence and authenticity. Her thoughts wandered to possibilities she had never considered. Friendship, trust, even something closer, though she did not name it. For the first time, she embraced the idea that connection could cross boundaries of species, culture, and expectation. She looked out at the city, the twin moons rising to join the fading suns, and allowed herself a small private smile. The world expected her calm, her measured grace, her unshakable composure. Yet around this human soldier, she was allowed to be more than that. She was allowed to feel, to wonder, and to be intrigued. And somewhere deep within, she knew that this was only the beginning. The calm alien princess had been flustered once, but now she was aware of a bond forming, one that could change her life, and perhaps the lives of many others. The human soldier had come to her world unexpectedly, yet he had proven that courage, instinct, and authenticity were qualities worthy of admiration across the galaxy. As the night settled over the palace, Lyra whispered softly to herself, a rare admission of feeling and hope. Perhaps he is the one who will show me more than I ever imagined. In the quiet of her chamber, she realized that bravery was not only about facing danger, sometimes it was about opening one's heart to the unexpected and trusting in the courage of another. Ethan had done both, and in doing so he had left an indelible mark on the calm alien princess. She closed her eyes, not with fear, not with hesitation, but with anticipation. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new responsibilities, and undoubtedly, new surprises. Yet she felt ready, for she knew that alongside her, This human soldier would remain, a steady, courageous presence, capable of stirring emotions even in the most composed of hearts, and so, the calm alien princess, once unshakable and precise, now embraced the unfamiliar warmth of curiosity, admiration, and connection. Around Captain Ethan, she discovered that even the most disciplined mind could find delight in unpredictability, and that even a heart bound by duty could find